let's get to Breonna Taylor and why about everything you know is wrong. Let me be clear here. I would consider this a tragedy because all around, I wish that this hadn't happened. Breonna Taylor should not have been shot. Absolutely not. Okay? They shouldn't have been shooting through doors. There was confusion. But anyone who assumes that this is because of racism is an idiot. All right? Anyone who believes that Breonna Taylor was sleeping in her bed, no. That the police came with a no-knock warrant, no. And that they initiated the opening fire, no. What happened was they knocked, announced themselves, said, hey, police, guy was shooting. They tried to break through the door. Return fire. Breonna Taylor died. We'll get into the specifics. But anyone who thinks that this tragedy is due to racism, it's blind fire.
It's impossible to be racist at that point.
So, of course, there have been protests. I'm not going to say protests. I'm going to say riots.
Riots. That's what it was.
Thank you.
Riots.
You used to get on to me for that.
This lady knows with her Ghost Rider chain whip.
She took the chains off for this interview, though. It's good.
Put y'all back in chains.
They charged one of the officers, right? One of the 3 officers involved with. They charged him with wanton endangerment because he fired his weapon and it put people at risk. And they're saying, well, why didn't they just charge him for murdering Breonna Taylor? Well, because here's the thing: they had a warrant for Breonna Taylor's apartment or her townhouse apartment condo. I'm not entirely sure. Don't fact check me on that. I believe it was an apartment.
Her domicile.
I don't know if it was a sublet.
Could have been. You never know.
I would argue it's irrelevant.
It might actually be irrelevant.
Erroneous, to use my half Chinaman's lawyer term. So wanton endangerment is the charge, which, by the way, I've never heard of wanton endangerment used outside of wanton endangerment or wanton disregard. It's not a word outside of those legal colloquials.
No, I did have to clarify with Gerald. He thought we were talking about wontons, and that's just because he's racist.
That is true.
It was an honest mistake.
He's tall, white, and blonde. This is the story that we were given, okay? A no-knock warrant. This is why we have the riots. A no-knock warrant was issued. Cops showed up, didn't knock, didn't avail their identity at all. Didn't even tell. Basically snuck in like they were the police bandits. All the greats leave their calling card.
They do.
No-knock warrant. That there were no drugs in the home, that Breonna Taylor had nothing to do with drugs, and that the cops randomly shot a black woman sleeping in her, effectively a sleeping bag. She was having a sleepover. That's how it was presented. No, well, let me break it down for you. It wasn't a no-knock warrant. Okay, she wasn't sleeping, and the current boyfriend in the home with Breonna Taylor shot first. Okay, so they want you to think that it was a slumber party with just an officer coming in like commando, when really it was more like this.
Who's there?
It's the police, ma'am. We've got a warrant.
I don't know any Warren.
No, we have a warrant.
Warrant who?
No, ma'am. We're the police, and we have a warrant.
And warrant always gets the short end of the stick.
Yeah,
wow.
Poor Warren.
Poor guy.
Well, and you had to say, and then I want to give some details. I wanted to summarize that for you, so you know that everything is wrong, and then I'll explain to you why, in case you think I'm like the Young Turks or Don Lemon, where I don't provide any sources. I've brought receipts.
Bill, I'm wondering why the anger is directed at the police right now. I understand about the actual event that happened, right? But when you take charges to a grand jury and the grand jury comes back and says there's no evidence, shouldn't they be pissed at the people in the city, basically, that said, hey, we looked at all the evidence and we can't bring any charges. And by the way, we looked at all the evidence with no defense, basically, for anybody on the police force, only the evidence against them, essentially. And we said that there wasn't enough to charge him. Is that pretty much what happened?
Well, yeah, and when you look at any of these grand juries, look, no one on either side is going to say the grand juries always get it right or that they always get it wrong, but they get it right virtually almost all the time. I mean, the standards are very low. It's pretty easy to be able to go through if you have the evidence to be able to say this is just to charge the people, right? But they went through the process, they examined the evidence, but all of the facts we have show it's the same. It's not that the officers shot first. The officers were there was a shot fired first at them, then they fired back. An
officer was struck in the leg by that shot.
Oh yeah, I hate to even mention those, but the Young Turks are talking about the people there were not. Well, they shot at cops. One of them was hurt in the leg. Oh, you go get shot from a artery and tell me how it feels.
Well, normally what I think when I get shot in the leg is, oh, this guy's done. You know,
I think,
we had Chris Kyle over here just aimed it right at, just got me right in the femoral. No big deal.
Right.
Let's everyone just like shake hands at this point, which completely ignores the danger that officers face at every given moment. I mean, there's just a complete denial of reality of the dangers of being an officer and how they put their lives on the line every single time, whether it was David Dorn, both before and after he was a cop,
right,
and the cops every single day.
Yeah.
But ultimately, when you look at what happened in this particular situation, no one denies that if you're in the dark and you're firing shots, maybe we can be critical if they didn't say it loud enough, or if it turns out it's true they didn't say anything, but there's no evidence to that.
Well, one thing I want to be clear about: the boyfriend did say that they knocked.
Yeah,
he didn't say
that they knocked. He said, "I don't." He said that he didn't hear them saying that they were police.
Right.
Now the official order was changed for the warrant. I want to be clear because we even covered this story where we said the police claimed that they stated who they were.
Right.
No, the order was changed from a no-knock warrant before they went out. And the boyfriend has already said they did knock on the door, and we now know that Breonna Taylor was not asleep. They were both awake and alert in the hallway. So the only argument, and it's my word versus theirs, an official order that wasn't a no-knock warrant, is did they say policeman? Did they say that?
Right.
That's
exactly.
the only fact that's in question at this point. I want to be clear about that.
Right. And so when we look at the charges themselves, look, every person who owns a gun, even police officers themselves are going to say, yes, there's no question that there's adrenaline, no question that you're going to, fire your weapon. And, there's no rule about how many times you fire shots. They always want to talk about how many times they were firing. Well, you fire when you perceive the danger, and you continue to fire until it appears that the danger is no longer there. And the fact that they took the ability to look at the different officers, it wasn't even the officer who got charged with the wanton endangerment. He wasn't even the one that shot the most.
Right.
No. One of the other ones shot significantly more bullets, but it was how he did it and why he did it. So the fact that they said, again, it's not to say
he's trying to shoot COVID off the lawn, to be fair. And people are like, well, that's inappropriate. And he's like, one for you. All right. I'll take my
legitimate concern, but this is actually an example of how the system does work. This is when you're analyzing the actual facts as opposed to the feelings, okay, and saying, okay, it is a tragedy. Look what the AG said. He goes, it's a tragedy that she died. There's no doubt about it. But that doesn't mean we compound that with additional tragedies of law by charging people that...
and we've already compounded it with additional tragedies from the media. So like I said, this is an example of the law working. It doesn't always work, but in this case, more truth has come to light. We waited for facts. But it shows us that the media is not working, that is a broken system, because look right now, they don't care. Well, they're back to COVID for a little bit. They still haven't talked about Hunter Biden. They don't care what the truth is. They don't cover that it's a hate crime hoax, whether it's Smollett or Bubba Watkins or Poop Swastika or the Duke lacrosse team or Mattress Girl. They just cover the initial lie. Today, they're going to double down on the lie, let the riots burn for a little bit, have some Democrats on there talking about how they have how they're empathetic, and then they will move on their merry way because there's no accountability. But as it relates to the law, also, Mrs. RBG, I believe you have a beach party at your beach house this weekend.
Yes, I just signed a new lease on a wonderful beach house down by the water there.
Well, you know what? In this market, you should buy. It's a buyer's market.
Lease is not the way to go here.
Let me get to a couple of facts here. That it wasn't a no-knock warrant. I just was really clear about that. I think we have an overlay for that. It changed. The official order changed. Okay. Police served a warrant at the residence of Breonna Taylor. It's a little bit confusing. I don't want to get too nerdy. There was a drug dealer across town. They also had a warrant. That person has been brought up on charges. He hasn't been convicted yet, as far as I know. But if he gets off without being convicted, I will eat my hat. I will find a hat. I don't wear hats. And I'll eat it.
Eat it.
Promise you, on air. Okay. If the guy gets off with no charges, I'll eat my hat. That was Walker. Now, the boyfriend was a man named Jamarcus Glover. He is also a convicted drug trafficker. Okay? Breonna Taylor had packages sent to her residence that was being picked up by this other drug. That's why they had two concurrent. You could use both. wanton concurrent warrants for that house and for Breonna Taylor's house. Here's something that a lot of people don't know. Breonna Taylor had a dead body in her rental car in 2016. Not saying that has a whole lot to do with this. But again, it's like, that's a weird thing.
That is a very weird thing.
Was it RBG? No?
I would have been back then. No, that's still would have been.
well,
She's still
okay.
alive. It's a hoax. But this, she had a dead body in a rental car.
That's crazy.
And again, do you think the cops know that?
Yeah, I rented it this way.
I don't know
so.
about you, but if I knew I was going to, I'm like, well, I'd go, all right, what's this warrant for? Okay, they got the other drug dealer across town. Right, he has a violent history and dead body in a Kia Soul.
Wait.
What is this? Who does that?
Yeah.
I need some
Who
context
does
on this.
that?
Oh, yikes.
Well,
Did
her-
she get her? And she got her cleaning deposit back.
Oh, you can't get it back for that. That trunk is a
No, she
two-body trunk.
absolutely
Does that go in
did.
the car
She
facts?
absolutely did. Because Avis didn't want a riot.
Yeah. Do you have to disclose that on the form? Like, I have a ding on the left fender,
Yeah.
dead body in the
Was a
trunk.
dead
That
body
was already
in
there,
there.
ma'am. You're good on that.
Have you had any pets or smoked in the vehicle? No, not anything else we should know about. Rotting corpse. I don't know how long.
Not sure how it got
There's a
there.
scratch on
I
the backup
tried
camera.
to move it out, but when I
got
reached in, my hand penetrated through the carcass because it had been sitting in
Yeah.
on the dashboard in the hot sun for a long time. So hopefully you
Bloated.
guys have something like a spray. All right,
Yeah,
thanks.
that'd work.
Get that little pine tree hanging from the mirror.
that new car
You'll be
smell.
aces.
Delicious.
All right. Originally it was a no-knock warrant. That changed. Okay. This is important because we need to know, too, that the police had to announce themselves
Yeah.
legally. They claim they did announce themselves.
Yep.
The boyfriend said, yep, they did knock, but I don't know that if they announced themselves.
There's a witness that said that. he
Breonna
did.
Taylor was not asleep. Okay, she and her boyfriend, both again in the hallway as she was shot amidst the return fire. There was
Yep.
crossfire going on. That matters because simply walking in and shooting someone you identify is an execution. Shots
Very
going
different.
both ways, where both people are shot, is not the same thing. That's not the same as a hate crime. Certainly not the same as a public lynching. The ex-boyfriend Glover has since, sorry, not the ex-boyfriend. I think this is the drug trafficker has been arrested on charges. The boyfriend has a previous history
Yeah.
of drug trafficking, though we don't think he had any drug trafficking here right now. I also have some questions. Wasn't able to find out, based on his previous criminal history, how he had a gun. I don't fully understand.
Yeah.
It depends from state to state. You can't get answers because the media doesn't do it. Do you have any idea how many petition for information we have to sign at a fucking comedy show? I'm sorry, this is ridiculous. You know, with Michigan, for Christ, it's all the time.
Yeah.
I'm going like, does anyone know this? And
not
people just go,
necessarily
no.
good.
They're like, oh, let me search. It's nowhere.
Right,
I
yeah.
have to go through a government portal to ask for it. I have to see what I have a fake Ring doorbell sketch of the police and RBG in a Weekend at Bernie's shirt. And I'm doing Brian Stelter's job still straight.
We're asking a lot of you, Stephen. We definitely
This
understand
is
that.
Steven's message telling me to go work on the FOIA request.
That's right. He has to go.
He does have to go work
My
on
half-Asian
stuff.
lawyer has to go here today because we
You do
got
keep him
started
busy
late.
with legal things. You know what I mean?
All right.
Well,
so-
look, you know, in this case, they laid it out very, very clearly. AG did a fantastic job saying, look, here's exactly what happened. The officer was shot. They returned fire. The ballistics confirmed that the officer that shot Breonna Taylor, who was standing right next to the person, not in another room, randomly getting shot. This is all that happened. And when they served the warrant, like you said, it wasn't a no-knock anymore. They have a witness that said they announced themselves as police. That's what they went off
Right.
of. And also the guy who had lived there prior listed it as his place of residence. That's why they were there in the first place. It wasn't because of Breonna Taylor. It was because of her ex-boyfriend. He had listed it as, I live here in
So there's a
January. And in
reason that you
February,
You do that
they went
sometimes.
there.
You list different residences, like when I did with the Pauly Shore Criterion
Yes.
DVD collection. I don't want that posted to my address.
You don't. Usually a P.O. box works well, though.
I
now
use
everybody
John
knows.
Boy's name, and he lives in an apartment, so he has to sign for it, and it's very embarrassing.
No.
Oh, great. Encino Man.
Yes. It's a
classic.
Biodome.
Again.
I'm noticing a trend here. No. It's just underage pornography.
In the Army now. There you go.
Watch Good Morning Mug Club live every Monday through Thursday at 10:15 Eastern.